Hey, good morning. Welcome. It's 2026. Happy New Year. Appreciate you all being back. Um, Everybody signed in, I assume. If you haven't done it online, it's always at the front desk. Any first-time Novolog attendees here today? Jasdeep, you want to say your name and tell something about yourself?
My name is Justine.
Okay. Welcome. Where the meeting notes can always be found, both on Matrix and Discord. Future meetings. Hey, if you want to present something that's FOSS or Linux related, talk to us. We're always looking for new and interesting presentations. You might have something that you don't think you're an expert in, but that you're very good at and that you do all the time. We'd love to hear about it if you think other people would get enjoyment and benefit from it. Meeting updates can be found in these ways. Yeah, the call for presentations. Presentations should be 15 minutes to 90 minutes. 90 minutes, you're probably going to be beating a dead horse. Personally, I prefer under an hour, but if you want to do 1.5, that's on you. They can be very simple. They can be very advanced talks. Every talk is welcome. And they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be polished for some big presentation. Perfect is the enemy of good. Don't feel bad if there's an apostrophe in the wrong place or the formatting looks like crap. We've had it all. Upcoming presentations, new shell, a different type of shell. I'm interested. I'm always looking for a better shell to use. March 21st, Install Fest for Windows refugees. We're looking to find all those people that are complaining really hard right now about the forced conversion and perhaps paying Microsoft and might want to get off of that platform. We have a lot of knowledge in this room, and if you know somebody, I wouldn't say bring somebody in who has like no chops, but people that are in technology and who could probably handle an Install Fest with us to move them over or to show them how it's done. So I'm really interested and really curious about if we can get some folks in for that one. That seems kind of exciting and topical. Oh, here are all the platforms we're on to find out information: mailing list, Fediverse, Matrix, Discord, and we have bots apparently. I haven't looked into that. Are they good bots, bad bots? AI bots?
Yeah, well, we don't have any AI.
Oh, good. Tech news you can use. Am I?
Control tab.
Control tabbing. Okay, thank you. Nope.
Keep going. Keep going. There we go.
Okay. First, new Raspberry Pi AI Hat 2 plus 2 has AI in it. Do you have more to say about?
It's for generative AI. So the previous one was only can only do vision stuff.
Okay.
It'll do LLMs. So you run an LLM locally.
I will add Jeff Geerling has a new video up on it for those that are interested. He also has a video addressing my complaint with the Raspberry Pi, that they were more expensive. Now they're cheaper.
Okay.
So you're saying you complain to him about prices of things, it'll come down?
I don't think that's it. It's more of a tongue-in-cheek comment of mini PCs are now overly expensive.
Yeah.
So this one is near and dear to my heart. I appreciate my brothers and sisters at Cloudflare taking on the fight with European governments and countries and anybody. Quad 9 is adjacent to Quad 1, obviously, for DNS resolution, anycasted worldwide for everybody to use. We run into issues like this. We are also being attacked by the Italian government, so we appreciate the people with money fighting the fight, because Quad 9 is a not-for-profit. We don't have deep pockets. We have some pro bono people to handle all the legal shit that comes in. But Cloudflare stepping up to this fight is great. They're talking about pulling out completely from Italy. So global DNS providers, when we get yelled at in certain countries, we just say, I'm going to shut down my servers in the POP there and have traffic picked up from around the country, in other countries. But that increases latency to your product. The main cabal of people that continue to come after us in Europe are things like FIFA and a lot of the international racing federations. They get mad when their things are, good morning, come on in. If you haven't signed in, sign in at the door, please, thank you. And Yes, it's a piracy thing. It's content. It's
Yeah.
about who can see my content, and they think the place to do it is at the DNS level, and they want to insert. They want the DNS providers to block, ban, or worse, manipulate DNS, which we just won't do. And this is an interesting case to us. Next, open code. Anthropic bans open code. Andy, you want to talk a little bit about this?
So OpenCode's the open source CLI thing that a lot of people use. It's very popular now, and it uses a whole bunch of different LLM models. You can just tell it to do whatever you want. And Anthropic they have their own proprietary CLI thing, and now they've banned OpenCode, and they're banning other people too. So they're trying to. This is the first attempt to try to make you use their own ecosystem, as opposed to being allowing these LLMs to be used just anywhere.
Did you see they also announced like a day or two after their own I think it's like some kind of staffing solution where people have started to notice that they are very much like Amazon and AWS, where they are in their terms of service they are scraping what people are doing with Claude and maybe using that information to build services that they will then compete with you on. It's, for anyone that doesn't know, AWS actively will try to, they won't buy your business, they'll just build the replacement.
Next, I hadn't heard this, but HPUX died in 2025. I was surprised it lasted that long. My first HPUX was, like back pre-2000, I think. And then, you want to know what's funny? For those of you who know Scott Carlson, he worked at TRW when I worked at TRW in the 90s. And I remember I had to go into he had no console to a HPUX box here, so I had to go in and be his hands. And unbeknownst to us, we would later work together and know each other in the 2000s. It was just kind of funny.
So what's left now? Is it just AIX? Or?
Didn't we have this conversation that, yeah, AIX still lives on in like some hardcore areas where it has to, or else, like financial systems crash or something like that?
Please don't remind me.
Yeah, I worked at Hewlett Packard just right here in this area.
Yeah.
And well, it was EDS, then EDS got bought by Hewlett Packard.
Hey, I'm an EDS refuge.
Oh, awesome.
Way back, we can talk. H. Ross Perot.
Well, yeah, and Solaris is still around. Is it?
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought
Solaris as
Oracle
well.
killed it.
I thought Oracle killed it.
Yeah.
Well,
They moved it to
Oracle,
Open Solaris and then they abandoned it.
there is Illuminos, which is an open source version of Open Solaris, and Oracle hasn't worked on it, but it's still around. It is an EOL.
Okay. As long as I can run CDE again on my desktop, I'll be happy.
I mean, listen, if
I didn't hate CDE.
if anybody is looking for an AIX position,
Yeah.
I can tell you right now that Disney Federal Credit Union always looking for AIX people.
Interesting.
If I use
I think they're called
for
like
6
Dreams
months,
Federal. It's got some weird name, but they have like all of 4 branches and 3 of them are on Disney property. So
Interesting to know.
to be able to use the credit union, you have to buy a ticket to the park.
This last one, Adafruit speaks out against Mamdani, thank you, RPI ban. I was trying to look this up. I didn't really see much about it, and I didn't click the link. So
You can click the link.
I think they
Right
were
there.
trying
There's
to
a quote.
avoid. They were trying to.
I just didn't know if I
avoid
could go back after I hit with your stupid laptop.
weird Wi-Fi
I'm sorry, it's just a
hacking
Linux
things.
laptop. I
Yeah.
know you don't know how that works, but. No, they wouldn't allow you to bring Flipper Zero and they were trying to ban things at the inauguration and they banned Raspberry Pis.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I saw that article, yeah.
Seems very random.
Well, if you remember, what was it 6 months ago when the FBI claimed that they had found all those SIM devices in Brooklyn or Queens?
But that's not a Raspberry Pi.
It's not, but
They lumped it all
I don't
together.
know.
For a while, those pies, they made some pies
This is unknowing people banning things they don't understand?
There you go.
Yes, okay. Another day ending in Y. Was that everything, Andy? Okay.
Same people that brought you lists.
More control tab.
Same people that
More
brought you.
control
Is this that note?
There we go.
Is this
Okay.
how Darren learned to use shortcuts?
Yeah, it's tough for me.
Don't worry, man. I've always.
It's still early in the year. I haven't woken up yet. Today's speaker is Andy Newton. You may or may not know him. If you don't know him, this is Andy Newton. Welcome.
Is that the last slide?
It should have been. I don't know. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass the mic.
Sir, I passed the microphone to you.
We're gonna make that formal going forward.
I relieve you, sir.
All right. How's everyone doing this morning?
He's not now.
I've had my coffee, unlike Darren. So, am I on? If I stand here,
Yeah.
how's it work? All right. So the title of this presentation is called "Make Brian Lunduke Angry: Learn to Program in Rust," and it's an overview for people who don't suck. And I'll get into this, and well, I'm just going to get into it right now. So, what is a Lunduke? A Lunduke is basically a person who disguises themselves as a journalist and does narrative over news. It's named after a guy who has a YouTube channel and just likes to talk about technology stuff in a very warped and inaccurate manner. I just made that up. That's actually not in the Urban Dictionary, but whatever. It should be. What? Yeah. So why does his opinion matter? And the truth is it doesn't. His opinion doesn't matter. It's just a hook for this presentation. But as I said, this is an overview of Rust for people who don't suck. And so I'm going to cover a bunch of topics, basically go into the hype, the counter hype, which is the Lundukeisms, and then describe Rust in different places that it's used, and so forth. This is not a tutorial. There's no way in an hour and a half or whatever you could do a tutorial for Rust. But I will give you some resources that you can go play with. By the way, I'm Andy Newton. I'm a principal engineer for ICANN. I don't actually program most of my day. It's maybe 5%. And my programming skills are probably not the greatest on the planet. I would say mid. And that in the Linus Torvalds scale of programmers is retarded monkey on crack. So anyway, have you guys heard that quote from him? It's pretty funny. Anyway, I do have one Rust open source project which is available in the wild, and it's called the ICANN RDAP client, or ICANN RDAP software now. It's a client server and some Rust libraries. You can download it basically off of crates.io. You can get it in Homebrew. There is a package in the AUR, which is a third-party package where you can get it as well. So, and the thing about that code is it is incorporated by some service providers. So there are people that use it for intrusion detection. They use the client and the libraries for that. And there are people that use it from the server side as well. So why Rust? So the hype. Memory safety. So this is probably the number one thing you hear about Rust is memory safety. So it's safe and efficient use of memory, and it does that without a garbage collector. So a lot of the languages that claim to be memory safe do that via a garbage collection system, and so then has its own issues. Rust does it without a garbage collector, so it's much faster and more memory efficient. And this is the other thing. This is kind of the twin to the memory safety thing. It's fearless concurrency. So the other thing that the Rust compiler guards against are concurrency issues, which is something most languages that do have garbage collectors don't do. So you can run into concurrency issues. And claims to be the speed of C, or very close to it. You would probably be hard-pressed to find differences as far as the speed goes. Produces binary executables with no runtime. So what that means is, like, if you're using Python, if you have a Python program, you have to go download the Python interpreter slash compiler. Same thing with Java. Java has to have the JVM around, so forth. Rust does not do that when you create binaries. They're just executables. They're statically linked, except for the glibc, but they're statically linked, and you can just use them. I think for a lot of people who do deployments, I think this is a big deal, because if you ever have to deal with like Java environments or any other thing that requires a runtime, to the programmer, it's not a big deal. But to all the DevOps people and the people who have to get the crap onto the server, it's a big deal. So, so this to me is like it's a huge win. The amount of things we do to have to work around runtimes is amazing. Zero cost abstractions. So there are a lot of libraries or a lot of things in the standard library that allow you to write code that then abstracts down to very small bits of machine code, and so the idea there is you can have very abstract APIs and so forth that actually are just as efficient as if you had done it in a much more ugly way. Excellent tooling. This is the other thing Rust is known for. How many people, who does Python around here? All right, do you use pip-env, pip-x? Which one do you, which of the 15 of them? UVX or something? I don't know what the, okay, yeah. Yeah, again, so it's one of those things, same thing like Ruby, right? If you do Ruby, you have to go get the Ruby runtime, and then if you wanted a different version of Ruby, blah, 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 and you just end up fighting things.
I just throw my computer away and start over.
Yeah, just have a different computer for every version of Ruby you need, yeah. Rust is known for its excellent tooling, so, and that's not just the thing that puts the compiler on there, which is pretty good, but it's also the compiler itself and the build tool. Yes?
This is more for people online. There isn't a link right now. Will you have the slides available afterwards?
They are on the Matrix and Discord channel. Yes, everything's in the general channel on Matrix or Discord. So, but it's got excellent tooling. So Cargo is the build tool that wraps the compiler and the linker and everything, and it's considered basically second to none. Anyone who's ever done Java programming had to fight with Gradle or whatever. That always just gives me nightmares. I just don't know why they can't get that straight. But anyway.
You know why. It's the XKCD image. There are 12 ways to do something. Let's create a unified way. There's now 13
Okay.
ways to do that.
So the like in the Java world, they start off with makefiles, and then makefiles are kind of, they've got their issues, and then they went to Ant, and then they went to Maven, and then they went to Gradle, and Gradle's got, you said there's the XKCD thing is 12 different ways of doing stuff. Gradle itself has 12 different ways of doing stuff, so it's a big pain in the butt. The other thing is that Rust is applicable to all parts of the stack. So you can find this on small embedded devices. You can find it in web browsers. Basically, the only place it's not applicable is where you need something that's tightly wound or tightly efficient assembly language or something like that. So, and it's got a robust ecosystem. So crates.io is where all the Rust crates go, and tons of stuff up there to do basically everything you want to do. So it's pretty robust. All right, any questions so far? Yes, Ed.
I might have missed it, but cross compilation you can do, right?
I will get to cross compilation. So
That's actually a good question. Someone in the chat wanted to know regarding binary eggs.
I'll get.
You can go do cross compile.
I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. So the counter hype, or the Lundukeisms. So Rust created a CVE in the Linux kernel. It's actually true. It did happen. There was a CVE found in some Android, I think it's called Android Binder or something like that, in the Linux kernel just late last year. And the counter to that is one CVE in 3 years is pretty good track record, right? It also occurred because they used the an unsafe block. So, yeah.
You're taking ownership of that.
So Rust normally will do all the concurrency checking and so forth, and you can escape that what's called an unsafe block, because there are times where you do need to do things, especially when you're getting at the lower layer of the stack, where you do need to do things that require that. In this particular case, it was a doubly linked list, which is pretty hard. That's a pretty hard problem from a concurrency angle, even in C. So, so I don't really think that this is something you should like say, oh, you can't ever use Rust because of this issue. So, they found the replacement. So there was a project to replace sudo written in Rust, and it seems to have people seem to have found some exploits for it. The problem is the C version of sudo has also had recent exploits, and actually that goes back many, many, many years. There are people who think memory safety means you could never write a logic bug. That is not true. I don't know where they got that from, but the Rust compiler is only getting rid of one class of errors. It's not like solving all your problems. So if it did, we'd all be out of job. So it would be AI. No, just kidding. This is another one I love. So Cloudflare's Rust code took down the internet. So this, I believe this happened in December, or was it November? So Cloudflare has this bot detection thing to protect customers. And basically what they do is they look at incoming traffic and they classify it, and it's like, hey, is this a bot? And then they sandbox it or do whatever. What happened was they were in the process of replacing that code, and they'd written a Rust version, and that thing failed in a very unexpected way, and Cloudflare went offline, or Cloudflare was rejecting a lot of requests. The problem with this line of attack is there were actually two versions of this code running: the legacy version written in C, and the one written in Rust. And it turns out the legacy version that was written in C also failed. So this was not a Rust issue. This was just a logic issue. Now, they both failed in different ways. And the reason we know about the Rust one is because Rust did a fail fast. So as opposed to going on its merry way and corrupting memory in some sort of incomprehensible way that would be hard to debug, the Rust code just panicked and said, done. And so it was easy to isolate that fault. So that's actually a benefit of code like that. So any code that fails fast is easier to debug in production. Am I done with the Lundukeisms? Yes. Any questions? None so far? All right. All right. So what is Rust? So it's multi-paradigm, multi-paradigm systems programming language. So it's not really a purist language. If a lot of people get into like being language geeks, and they'll say, oh, this is a functional language, this is an OOP language, or whatever. Rust kind of borrows a lot of stuff from a lot of different places, intentionally, because what they're trying to do is be very pragmatic about stuff. So it's got the memory safety, no garbage collection. It's got the borrow checker, which deals with the concurrency issues, and that deals with ownership of data at compile time. Compiles to machine code, and it's strongly and statically typed. And this is kind of a big deal, because that's what gives you a lot of these safety guarantees. And it uses what's called algebraic data types. So that's a thing borrowed from functional programming, where you have types that are composable. And famously, no null. So it's kind of interesting. So null or nil or whatever has been called the $1 million mistake or whatever it is, because like you get a null pointer exception like in Java, and things just go bad, right? So Rust does not allow you to state null anywhere. It's oops-ish in the fact that it has no classes or inheritance. but it does do polymorphism using traits. Sorry, and you can also extend data types written by someone else using your own traits if you want to. And it does do encapsulation, but it doesn't do it at an object level. It does it at a module level. It's functional-ish, so it borrows a lot of stuff from functional languages, which seems to be a very faddish thing to do these days. So it has first-class functions and closures. It does immutability by default, so when you define a variable, you have to go out of your way to say it's mutable. Basically has a lot of the iterators in the standard library, which is also something that comes from functional languages, algebraic data types. It has no infinite tail calls or infinite tail recursion, so that's a big thing for doing a lot of recursive code. However, it is coming. So, and it does metaprogramming. So they're metaprogramming, which is something that's easier done in more of a language that has a runtime, essentially. So you see Python and Ruby and Java do this all the time. But it's much more difficult to do that when you have compiled code. But it does metaprogramming through a macro system. And these aren't like your old style C macros. These are two different types of macros, declarative and procedural macros. Now, I will admit, that is not a fun thing to do in Rust. So if you're doing a lot of metaprogramming in Rust, you're definitely a high-level developer, in my opinion. Has a lot of code and packages. So it's got a small core library, or standard library, but it has a lot of packages, and they're called crates in the Rust system. And it has a public repository of those at crates.io. First-class build system, I talked about Cargo earlier. I could go into this all day long, but Cargo is very easy to use, very easy to define your dependencies, and you don't get into like this massive dependency hell you do in some of the languages, Gradle. So, and good toolchain management. So there's you install, or you can use a program called RustUp to have multiple versions of Rust on your system, and multiple targets as well. So, and we'll get into that in a minute. Supports multiple architectures. So there's x86, ARM, which are the two big ones these days. Also supports RISC-V. We have a RISC-V box back there sitting next to John, which has Rust on it, so if you guys want to play with that afterwards. But there's Spark, PowerPC, all the things that you would think. The other big one is WASM, so WebAssembly. So you can put Rust into your browser. Take the Rust code, yes.
When you list targets, you're just listing architectures. Do you take like the cross product of operating systems too? So like is x86 Windows a different target than x86 Linux?
Yeah. So the targets do take into account the OS, the architecture, and the standard library as well.
Is that how you get 240?
Yeah, probably. No, there's 240 different CPUs out there. Actually, there probably are, but.
Do you know off the top of your head kind of the breakdown on these? Like, is PowerPC a tier 2 or a tier 1?
I do not know that. You'd have to go look it up. But they do list it on the website. So I don't believe PowerPC is a tier 1. I don't think RISC-V is a tier 1, but it's easy to. I think it's a tier 2, and it's easy to get it on there.
Getting your hands on RISC-V is a lot easier and cheaper than getting your hands on PowerPC.
It's
Newer
true.
PowerPC.
Yeah, it's hard to get hold of PowerPC, or more expensive. I don't think it's hard, right? It's just more expensive. I think IBM will gladly sell you those. Yeah. Just like they'll gladly sell you the S390 as well. Yeah, it's just a lot more money. So.
Seeing that, show of hands, how many people here have ever actually worked on an S390X?
IBM mainframe.
Yeah.
I've seen them. I think I've done TN3270 once or twice in my life. So, yeah. And then it has the FFI, which allows you to, that's for foreign function interface, and that's basically anything that has the C ABI, it's compatible with. You can call those, you can call out to it. And in fact, although a lot of stuff now is being written in pure Rust, a lot of the, originally when Rust was coming up, there were a lot of people just writing crates that actually were just interfaces into pre-existing C functions. so or C libraries, and you still see that around a lot. Yeah.
That also goes the other way, where Rust is very common for other languages to embed. So in the FFI spec, you have the host language and the embedded language.
Yes. Yeah, you can take C and call into Rust and so forth. So I've never done any of that. I believe the C to Rust thing is a little more complicated, just because of the way you have to do the guarding of the data on the bridge between the two. But yeah, you can do that.
Other languages like Elixir, it's basically put a macro in front of it.
So I'm sorry, Elixir. There's just a macro that allows you to do the FFI stuff, or
There's a Elixir package that has all of the macro and the Rust compiling toolchain, and then it
yeah. So they've done something where they've precompiled everything. I believe there's one for Java as well that does that. So anything that I think you can call from Java and you run it against your Rust code and then it creates all the bindings. So there's probably for other languages as well. All right. So where is it used? Well, the Linux kernel. Much to Brian Lunduke's chagrin, it's used in the Linux kernel. It's actually been in there since 2022 is when they started the experiment. And just at the end of this past year, they said, experiment's over. It's now permanent. So and that was apparently the conference wherever this occurred, it was a unanimous decision. So.
Is this before or after the whole internet drama over the C maintainer and Rust developer that saw a bunch of people from like Apple's ARM team drop off the maintainers list?
So the Apple ARM people, I believe, that happened last year.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say last year. I mean 2024.
No, it was 2025. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
There was a whole kerfuffle over one of the kernel maintainers screaming and yelling about having to maintain two different languages within the code base. Maybe it was 2024. I was pretty sure it was 2025.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the Apple thing. I think that was a different internet
One of
brouhaha.
the guys was an Ashi Linux maintainer,
Oh, okay.
if I remember correctly.
Hard to keep track of the drama. The real Linux kernel developers of Hollywood or whatever. So. Anyway, it's in there. So there was. I know. So one of the things Brian Lunduke said was, "Hey, they're rewriting all of Windows in Rust." That's wrong. What did happen was there was an engineer at Microsoft who put out a call for Rust developers because he wants to rewrite a lot of code in Rust, and he just kind of inartfully said we're rewriting all our code. He kind of meant all of his code, I believe. But people said, "Oh no, it's all of Microsoft's code, which includes Windows."
You're missing the underlying joke, which was, is it the North Star metric or something? Which was, there was some quote about one engineer, 1 month, 1 million lines of code.
Yeah. And they're going to use AI for that as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, which so I got to tell you, because it's a strongly typed, statically typed language, doing vibe coding with Rust is actually not as bad as you think it would be, right? So.
Just a reminder, March, Windows to Linux migration, everybody.
Yep. So we'll take your Windows code written in C and move it over to Linux written in Rust. No, I'm just kidding. That said, even though Microsoft is not rewriting Windows in Rust, they do a lot of Rust development, and they are pushing heavy into it. So yeah. See a lot of it in embedded systems. So there are tier 1 and tier 2 architecture or targets for both 32 and 64-bit systems. There are even, believe it or not, tier 3 architectures that are 16-bit, and which to me that's very amazing. There actually is this thing called Rust-MOS, which is a Rust compiler for the 6502 CPUs. If anyone had a Commodore 64 or Atari system back in the day, in the 80s, that's what they're doing. So they're targeting that processor. Actually, I believe if you target 6502, you're also getting a lot of the Motorola 68,000 stuff as well, which was heavily used in embedded systems back in the day. So they're doing that. There's also MRUST-C transpiler, which will actually take Rust code and create C code for you. So you could theoretically use that to target any architecture where you have a C compiler. So essentially, so if you have something like a Z80 processor, like you have your old Timex Sinclair 1000, you could then take some Rust code, compile it into C, target for Z80, and then move on. Or CPM machine is probably a more accurate way of doing it. So that'd be interesting. I don't know if anyone's done it, but it'd be interesting. You can cross-compile. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing on the planet to do, but you can cross-compile from any tier 1 host architecture that has that is a host to any other architecture. You do have to deal with the hurdles of your non-Rust dependencies, and that's usually probably your biggest hurdle. And there's a project called Cross, which actually uses a lot of Docker containers to make this a simpler, smoother process. You see this in a lot of GitHub projects. They'll actually use the Cross stuff to cross-compile to different architectures. Different targets. So it is almost always easier to cross-compile from like Linux on x86 to Linux on ARM, that type of stuff, than doing like Linux on x86 to Mac ARM. Those are when you cross the OS boundary, things get very difficult pretty fast, and that's because of the non-Rust dependencies there. Command line interfaces. So there are a lot of crates that help you deal with command line interfaces. I was going to try to do a head-to-head with some of the GraalVM stuff that we had in November, but I thought that would just be. I thought that would.
Solve that problem too.
Yeah. But we don't have 3 hours to watch the GraalVM thing compile, so. But there are a lot of interesting crates out there. There's CLAP, which is probably the gold standard in how you deal with command line arguments. A thing called directories, which deals with the abstraction of the different OS directories, so depending on whether you're Windows, Linux, or a Mac. ANSI terminal output, HTTP request libraries that are quite good. For terminal user interfaces, so that's the full-blown curses-based type things that go in the terminals. There's a crate out there called Ratatouille, and the guy who does that, who maintains that, is a very energetic person, and he does a lot of. I would say he's doing a great job marketing his open source project here. There's a lot of stuff built on top of Ratatouille nowadays. So, desktop apps. There's a thing called Tori, which is, you can think of it like Electron, but not as bad. I shouldn't say that. Electron does do the job it needs to do, but it's much more lightweight than Electron. It does do like Rust backend, JavaScript front end type stuff, as I recall, but it's much more lightweight. There's just regular widget libraries like Iced, which is what the Cosmic Desktop is using these days. There's the eGUI library, and then there's Dioxys, which is targeting web and desktop. And that's not in like the Electron way. That's more from a widget-based type thing. So the desktop one is more just regular GUI widgets, and then the web one is actually HTML. If that makes any sense, yeah.
Does Tori have like an embedded browser engine?
I don't know. Do you know the answer to that?
The Electron got a lot of flack, and it was described as really heavy and memory hog because it took the whole Chromium project and it forked it and kind of began tearing it down from there. Tori really is concerned only with being the
So it's a native HTML rendering engine, but it's not the browser. I think that's what you're trying to say, right? Yeah. Yeah.
The other, the other thing, there's a new project called Verso, making a like web browser library, like rendering library called Servo. So that's this new very minimal cross-platform, build your own browser library.
Yeah. Tori's a very interesting project. So if you need to do something that's Electron-ish, it's a very good way to go.
And all 4 of those work on all tier 1 platforms?
Probably. I don't know.
Diaxis is also, well,
Doxis is not just web and desktop; it's also mobile.
mobile,
Yeah.
And Tori is looking at mobile also. So it's a really cool space to hit all of your platforms in one go. But if you, let me know if you do it because there are like serious edge cases.
Like anything, right? Anytime you're doing any uh, cross target or even multiple UI paradigms or multiple UI types, there are trade-offs, right? Where icing and eGUI are more, my understanding is they're more just like widget libraries like Qt and GTK. Tori and Diaxis are full-blown frameworks that are intended to hit multiple targets. Web servers, and what I mean by web servers is not like Nginx or Apache HTTPD. I'm talking about something where you can actually create your own server logic in. There is Axum, which is actually very popular. It's part of the Tokyo project. Rocket, it's open source, but it's a commercial entity doing that, I believe. And then Actix, which is I think one of the first ones that was out there. So it's still out there, pretty fast. Back-end coding, SerDes. If you do any REST programming and you have to do with JSON or XML or TOML, SerDes is going to be the serialized, deserialized language abstraction layer that you're going to use. It's actually really cool. I've used a lot of these things in a lot of different languages over the years, and I can say SerDes is probably the best one I've ever run across. Request, which as I mentioned earlier, it will do synchronous HTTP calls as a client, but its claim to fame is asynchronous. So SQLX, if you want to do asynchronous database drivers. And then if you don't like yourself and you want to do an object relational mapping, there's Diesel. So my suggestion to anyone these days is never do an ORM, but people don't listen to me. Anyway, web front ends. So you're not going to find an ecosystem as good as what you have with JavaScript for a web front end. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. But the rest stuff is actually fairly decent. Diaxis will target the web front end as long as it will with other types of user interface platforms. Vue is kind of like a React style functional component type of web front end. Now this is all Rust that compiles down to WASM and then you put it in the browser. Leptos, and then there are various people who take things like HTMX or Alpine JS and then they interface it with their Rust WASM code. I'm not going to say that's all fun and or what is it, shits and giggles when you're doing web front end stuff, but that's true regardless of what language you're using. So I don't know. Right, web front end work is to me it's just a big pain, no matter what you're doing. I'm getting a lot of blank stares. Okay.
Are there any other languages that target WASM like that? Like I thought you were going to tell us that these were all back-end that generate HTML pages to be served to a front end. And you're saying at least one of them compiles to WASM.
These all compile to WASM as far as I know. Right, so that's what I meant. They compile the WASM, and you actually are running. It's like running JavaScript in your web browser, but it's WebAssembly instead. It's Rust compiled to WebAssembly. So I've done U, which I'm not gonna. I don't want to like say it's bad. It's just complex, and but I think that about every web front end thing I ever deal with. So anyway, yeah.
One really quick thing is that I've tried most of these, and I think this whole category of web front end, it is a bad way to learn Rust.
Oh yeah. Don't If you want to learn Rust, don't do it as a web front end. That's not the way to. That's not the way to start. So yeah, that'll hurt you pretty bad, especially the U one. I will tell you, like, you will be doing so many copies and closures and things like that. You would just like. I know why they do it, because they're having to get around some certain things, but it just hurts after a while. So seriously, the thing, and I've never done it, but I've seen people who have done it. The HTMX stuff is probably the best way to go if you really want to do something. If you're doing something lightweight, if you're doing something truly interactive, I mean, you're gonna want a better solution than HTMX. But that's the. Does anyone know what HTMX is? It's the, what do they call it? Low.js stuff. So you're writing very little JavaScript, and it's just a lot of things tacked onto the HTML tags. So networking. There's a lot of good networking crates out there. Hickory DNS is one I actually have experience with. It's actually pretty cool. But there's things to do quick. There's things to do BGP speaking. There's a native thing called native TLS. Yeah.
Is Hickory DNS a resolver or a?
It's both. You can set it up as a server if you want. I've only used it as a resolver, but and it's actually as a resolver, it's fairly lightweight. It's asynchronous as well. But yeah, you can do a server in it as well. And the way Hickory is set up is there's a library of the DNS primitives, which you can just use that and then do all the actual sending and the receiving of the packets in your own code if you really want to. Hickory is really cool. I think it's funded by the same people who do Let's Encrypt, or Let's Encrypt funds it, something like that. There's packet parsing. Native TLS is actually an interesting package because what that does is, as opposed to trying to do the SSL TLS stuff in your own native library, your own native code, it'll actually allow you to use whatever is native for the platform. So as a client, as a server, if you're doing server software, it may not matter so much. But as a client, like if you install a client on someone's laptop, it's different between what a Mac has as far as its certificate libraries and all this other stuff versus what Linux or Windows does. So native TLS actually does the bridging for you and just creates a native interface for it. If you're doing just like web stuff, you're actually never going to deal with native TLS bytes directly. You'll probably just have requests, which is doing all that stuff for you. Scripting. So there's this thing called Rust script. To me, this is like, to each his own. I don't know why you would do this, but there are people who write scripts in Rust. I'm actually going to show you an example in a second here. But there it is. You can do that. But the other thing I think is really cool around the scripting area is there are a lot of embeddable Lua interpreters. So you can take which are written in Rust. So you can actually have your own Rust code, and then you can allow your users to write Lua code that interfaces with your Rust code. And that's so you're basically embedding a Lua interpreter into your Rust project, and that is really cool. So, all right. Any questions? Yes.
There was one question that I've been holding on for that I would hope. I don't know if you're ever going to get anything like this. Anyways, any recommendations on books for someone who has been a long-time Java developer, 10 plus years of experience, looking to play around with Rust?
I will get to that in a minute. So, yes, I will give you the resources for learning Rust. But for anyone who wants to know what this is a little more complicated Hello World program than you say, but I think just like saying print Hello World is kind of dumb.
Okay, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Why is it every language needs to reinvent print? Why can't we just have one, why? I'm just asking why.
Because it's not an easy topic, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think println I think everyone understands that print language. The exclamation mark means it's a macro. So yeah, so that's the other thing. In Rust, anything that ends with a looks like a function call but ends with an exclamation point is a macro.
Is that convention or is that enforced?
It's the language. Yeah, yeah.
The other underlying thing here is that they didn't reinvent print lines so much as all of strings. Strings are pretty complex types, and the formatting of strings is a lot of what this is doing.
Yeah. So when you get into formatting data and when you're doing interpolation, which you can do in Rust, things get a little more complicated. So
This is not me
Yeah.
saying that they reinvented it. It's just simply every language you have to learn whatever the print syntax is.
yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's one of those things that just should be standardized into a 13th way of doing it.
yeah.
Most languages have some printf option that uses. Does Rust have one that uses the old C format strings?
You can do that with println.
There
Yeah.
you go. Boom.
Yeah.
That's the standard.
I don't know if it's the exact C syntax, but you can do the like, give me left padding, do whatever, what you can do that in Rust with the print line macro too. So let me run this. So this is supposed to run. It's actually supposed to shell out to a Rust script and compile the Rust script and then run it. So that was pretty fast. So it may have cached something. So I'm not going to say that that would happen the first time. But people who do say that Rust is slow to compile, there you go, it compiled.
Running this in your presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. I have questions after.
Yes. So yeah, this is a presentation tool called Present Term, written in Rust. So although the shelling out and doing that thing is not it does more than Rust. You can do any shell script or anything like that. So what are the cons? So I'm going to go into these in a minute. Some of these are semi-legitimate. But I do want you to understand when people start railing against Rust, one of the issues is that people hate change. And I've actually learned that people really don't hate change. They just hate change that they're not in charge of. So, but let's get into the different cons of Rust. So the compiler is slow, and that is true compared to like starting up a Python interpreter or anything like that. And that's because it's doing a lot of code analysis and doing this thing called the borrow checker, which is actually looking to guard against the concurrency issues and the shared mutable state. And so that is the big thing about the Rust compiler. It is not as fast as other. Yeah. So like if you were to use the Go compiler, anyone done Go stuff? Like it is lickety split fast. I mean, it is very fast. Basically, you hit enter and it's done, right? I think sometimes it compiles it before you actually ask it to. So compared to something like that, yeah, it is slow, very slow actually. I don't think it's true in comparison to Java. In my experience, the Java stuff is just as slow. So, not trying to shit all over Java. Just kidding, I am. But I think it's relative, and it has gotten a lot faster over the last few years. Steep learning curve. So yes, that borrow checker thing I talked about, that can take a while to get your head around. You will find yourself fighting it a good bit of the time. And it's something that you don't encounter in other programming languages. So if you're a seasoned programmer coming from another language and you run into this, you're probably like, I've never had to deal with this concept before. So it can be a little hard to use. Yeah.
So that is learning some more on concurrency front.
So the borrow checker is guarding against concurrency issues. So it forces you to think about who's using your data and when, right? And that's the point about this is forcing developers to think about shared mutability and memory management is actually a good thing. So, especially when efficiency and speed and size of things matters. So, this is my favorite one. You can't write a linked list in Rust. You hear this all the time. and therefore it's impossible to write an operating system in Rust. There are, I put some more on there. There actually are people who say this. I find this a very amusing argument. The problem with this, Rust is now in the Linux kernel, so saying you can't write an operating system in Rust, it seems kind of silly. There's also a pure Rust kernel called Redox, which is done by one of the System 76 guys. The other thing about this linked list argument is, if you go to rustdocs.kernel.org, you'll see all the Rust documentation for the Linux kernel. There's a linked list in there. So saying it's impossible to write seems kind of stupid. Now here's the truth. Writing a linked list in Rust, just a naive linked list, is not easy because of the shared mutability. So what does something that a linked list have to do? You have to share references between the nodes. And so because of the shared mutability issues around the borrow checker in Rust, it's not as straightforward as you would see it in other languages. However, there is a guy who wrote a book called Learning Rust with Entirely Too Many Linked Lists. And I did not know there were like 7 different types of linked lists. I thought there was only 2. So that shows you how much I know. But he has a very great statement on this, which is linked lists are as niche and vague of a data structure as a trie. So does anyone know what a trie is? No. A trie, T-R-I-E. It's a data structure. It's like a radix tree type thing. Yeah, so everyone's like, I don't know what that is. Yeah, because it's a esoteric data structure that you only reach into when you need it for certain applications. And his argument is, same is true for linked lists. Like I know I personally can probably count on 2 fingers the number of times I've written a linked list in real production code. So yeah, come across it in interview questions. So yeah, so when you're writing an operating system, and I'm sure we're all writing operating systems every day, yes, you will run into linked lists. But other than that, the rest of us don't run into them. And you can go your full career and not run into a linked list. So, yeah, people use dictionaries and hash maps and things like that far more often than they use linked lists, in my experience.
Well,
So.
I guess like if you're writing Python, you have like a queue, and then you're adding things to the queue. Like Python in the back end is like actually, if it's a big data type, right, it's not being that contiguous.
Like in the Python code you're writing, or in what the interpreter's doing? Yeah, well, I mean, I know I write language interpreters every other day, so yeah.
Ever since I was paid as a programmer, I don't think I ever wrote a data structure. So the question is,
That's also true.
I mean, does Rust provide in its standard collections library something that offers zero-cost insertions on the front?
I believe so, yeah.
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 There.
I don't think I've ever used it. I don't think I've ever used, right, like I'm not going to go write my own hashed map either, right? There's one in the OS. Unless I need something very, very custom, I'm just not going to do it. And the same is true with the linked list, right? But I think it's rare that people use linked lists. Anyway, so here's the other argument. Rust is not object-oriented language. And my answer to that is, who cares? And if you do care, there's an excellent YouTube video about how that's a stupid argument. I'm not going to rehash everything because I could not do that guy justice, but it's an excellent YouTube video. If anyone ever pulls out the "it's not object-oriented" argument, just go reference this YouTube video. It's excellent. So it's not functional, which is true. It's not a functional language. It's not a pure functional language, but it does borrow a lot from the concepts there. And one of the other things that you don't have in Rust right now, and so there is a very useful feature in functional languages called tail call optimization, or there's another term for it as well. But basically, as you have functions that repeatedly call themselves, they do a lot of recursion, you end up building up a large stack, right? Because all the arguments are put onto the stack and so forth. And there are a lot of functional languages that optimize for that, so they understand when you get into these recursive situations. They optimize the stack, and so you're not building up everything. Can't do that in Rust yet, but they are working on it. So there's no Rust specification. I think Bajoy brought this up the other day, and I went home and looked it up, and you're correct. There is no Rust specification. They are, however, working on it. So did I say that? Yeah. So they're working on it. It's called RFC 3355. Now here's the deal. So languages like C and Java and whatnot, they weren't really born in the open source world. So a specification was important when you want one commercial vendor to have something that's compatible with something else another commercial vendor has. Rust is a much more modern language, came along, and it's like 1.0 was in 2015, I believe. So it was born in the open source world where you don't really need to do that kind of thing. The actual running code is more important than the specification. That's not to say that a specification is not important, because you saw the RustMOS project and the MRustC projects. They could definitely use a specification to go off of. So they are working on that.
I think it's more common for languages not to have specifications. Perl, Python, Ruby,
So didn't
Go. Does Go have one?
I thought Go did.
I don't know. I mean, all the languages you listed, the only other one I can mention is Common Lisp. And the reason they all have specifications, except maybe Java, is that they have multiple implementations.
Yeah, I mean that's what the specification's for, so you can have multiple implementations. I thought Go had, maybe I'm wrong,
I'm just guessing it doesn't. Because
and I thought Python did too. I could be. I really don't know. Yeah, I mean Perl probably doesn't have it because it's just a mess, but yeah, no. Perl doesn't have it because who else would want to implement that? Anyway, the other criticism is it's not a batteries included language, which is true. The standard library is pretty slim compared to other languages. However, from its very beginning, it had cargo and it had the crates ecosystem. So basically, their idea was they don't need to put everything in the standard library. If you need something, people are going to write it. A lot of the people who contribute to the core Rust stuff, they also create their own crates for different things. And so, for when there are a lot of specialty needs like hash tables and hash maps that you can go out and find on the crates ecosystem at crates.io. Yeah.
So like, if it is a very slimmed down batteries not included, is there two classes of packages, like we'll call them core and not to throw again this Python expression, or sorry, because Perl's Python, right? Remember the whole CPAN master,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there was stuff that was decent, and there was stuff that you didn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. Is there like a blessed section?
No. There's no one out there judging quality of crates.
It's up to you, the reader, to make sure you get the right
Yeah.
overlay for it.
Yeah, and that may, I don't know how you would go about doing that. That's a difficult topic, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What ships in, well, again, pick on Python. What ships in Python, the batteries do, but that stuff kind of works as it's the de facto standard. If you link something in, then up to you to figure it out. But I think you're going to the cargo a lot sooner because there's a lot less.
Yeah. And keeping the core library, the standard library small helps them in the surface area they have to deal with as the core Rust project. And it makes it easier to target new architectures too. So there are definitely benefits to doing that. But you're correct that you can have some Rust crates out there which get used a lot, and then some that turn into crap. There's a YAML one.
Or disappears later on. XKCD, when the little slivers.
You can yank crates from crates.io. So you can, if you're the developer, I believe, you can say, I really screwed up, or I've got a major vulnerability here, and you can yank it, which does happen. And there are some. It's just like anything else. Reputation is a little bit earned. So there was a YAML library, which was a fork of the original Surdy YAML thing, which ended up having a lot of crap in it, and so that got a bad reputation. This is one I've run into. If we use Rust, we can't find any developers to help write the Rust code or to maintain it in the long run. And yeah, it's true. There are fewer Rust developers than there are like Java or Python developers out there. Very true. However, the lowball estimate is there are 2.27 million Rust developers in the world. I've actually seen estimates as high as 4 million. And for 9 years running, for the Stack Overflow surveys, it's been the most loved and most admired language. So not hard to find people who want to do it. Maybe hard to find people who have experience with it, but hard to find people who want to do it. And it keeps moving up in the indexes. So TIOBE, which can be kind of a, depending on what you think a language index should have, but it showed that just in the last year it went from 17th to 13th place. And there's another estimate by the Slash Data Survey that the Rust community grew by 33% in 2025 alone. Yes?
So I will say this to that, because I remember when Python was not the choice majeure.
Uh-huh.
If you are a Rust developer or you work somewhere where you want to implement Rust with them, you have to be an advocate. Like you have to be willing to fight to do whatever project, or be willing to say, hey, can we do this as a side project to show we could do this with Rust, to prove sometimes to a boss or management. Part of that is also explaining what the ROI is. For those moving into that stage of their careers, ROI a lot of times is what management and C-suite really care about. They don't care if you use Python or Rust
Right.
or Go. They want to know what the ROI is. So, just think of those things.
Same thing as using Linux back in the day.
Yeah.
It was very secret.
Is there like a use case Rust is like really, really specifically good to advocate for? Like like with Python, people bring up like data science ML,
Mhm.
like C embedded. Is there something like that for Rust? I guess?
So like it's one niche thing that Rust excels at that everything else that you can't really find. I don't.
Memory save.
It's
Uh,
like not an application. It's like
I mean, I
That's-
feel like
that's not a
more
s-
of the. Well, I'm speaking more of a. How do I put it? More of the social media aspect.
yeah.
I don't know what other term to call it, but like if you're doing something that's highly secure, there might be a component where saying, hey, because remember, what was it, 2-3 years ago, the U.S. government said everything needs to get off of C and C++.
Yeah.
Because everything's
so
not
it's
memory
good
safe.
for like competing with like C in places where like safety is more critical.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Where concurrency is an issue, and memory safety is an issue. Yeah, honestly, I don't think people should not learn C. To be honest, I think as a computer science person, you should definitely learn C, and you should be able to have that in your back pocket for those situations where you do need it. Where was I going with that? But yeah, I don't know if there's any unless you're dealing with the high concurrency or where memory critical issues, that's probably where it would shine, and complex problem domains too. You can definitely write a C program that is memory efficient, but you do have to. The more complex the code gets, the harder it is to reason about.
Is it easier to figure out like thread safety if you're dealing with Rust code?
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah.
The
Yeah.
one caveat I will put to this,
Mhm.
and that is for any of you, I don't know what the likelihood of this is, especially when I was pushing for Python related stuff. I was the only Python guy at the time, which meant that anything I wrote, I knew I was on the hook for that ended up in a project. Meaning that if something broke,
They can't
Saturday
fire you
night-
then. They can't fire you then.
Well, yeah, the flip side of that is, like I was saying, Saturday night, 10 o'clock, something breaks.
I mean,
I'm the one getting the phone calls.
it's only if you want to answer the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big Rust advocate, but I wouldn't say all the other languages are not useful. I still do from time to time Python stuff, just because I think for whatever reason there are certain things to me that just seem to be faster, and I can write faster in Python. And actually, a lot of times I go write it in Python and I'm trying to prove out what I'm trying to do because it's not really a very well-defined problem, and I go, now I'm going to write that in Rust just to make sure it works predictably. So, my own experience is you can actually take a competent software developer, and in about 2 months they can be a competent Rust programmer. That's my experience, and my other experience is that one of the bigger problems with getting adoption is that everyone wants disruptive technologies, but no one wants to pay for them. So,
Linux is free.
yeah, Linux is free, right? But yeah, everyone wants it. What? Yeah, but paying the developers to learn it is not. So, all right. So this is the part that they want to know: how to get started. There is the Rust programming language book, which is online at doc.rustlang.org. It's a very good book. I would recommend it. There's also the Rust Playground. Again, all these links are in the Matrix and Discord channel. There's the Rust Playground, which is an online IDE and Rust compiler. It's a very good way of just getting your feet wet. The other thing is just install Rust. If you don't have a package manager that does that for you, you can just go to rustlang.org and install it with the curl bash thingy that a lot of people seem to hate, but whatever. There's a very good set of exercises called Rustlings. This is what I would recommend for everyone. And basically, it's a set of exercises. It's in basically you clone a GitHub repository and you walk through different exercises, and it keeps track of the ones you've completed. It's very, very good. I definitely recommend that. Other useful tips. This is another thing about the tooling I said. The compiler gives very helpful tips, especially for the basic stuff. So when the compiler rejects something, so like, you know, in Java, like you get some sort of compiler error, and you're like, what the fuck? I mean, sometimes it can make no sense, right? Sometimes. The Rust stuff is very different. It oftentimes highlights the actual code that you've got the problem with, and it'll actually tell you what the error is. In many instances, it'll tell you how to fix it. So, or it will give you a suggested fix. So I just pay attention to what the compiler says. Brown University has taken the Rust book and they've actually put some exercises in there. And this was not done by Rust programmers, by the way. This was done by their cognitive science people or something. These are people that actually study how people learn. And they went, well, Rust is a notoriously hard language to learn. Let's see if this is a good experiment. And so they actually took the Rust book and they put a bunch of exercises in there. So it's actually pretty good. I would recommend that as well. The other thing I've seen new developers do, for whatever reason, they didn't want to use a language server, an LSP. So, yeah, I don't know anyone who does any modern programmer that doesn't use an IDE without an LSP anymore. Anyway, but well, that's not true. I do know some. I don't know why they're so obstinate. There's an excellent one for Rust, which is actually now part of the official Rust core or Rust packages, called Rust Analyzer. Very fast, and I would recommend taking whatever IDE you're using, make sure it's using Rust Analyzer. And then there's Rust by Example, which is another Rust book, but this is pretty interesting because, and I think I've got it on that RISC-V box back there. What it does is it's got an actual editor built into the Rust book itself, so you can go play with the code and compile it right then and there. So you can actually read the thing and then go run the code. And then, of course, the more you get into Rust, you're going to run into people who just want to argue with you, like someone's wrong on the internet type thing. So I think this is a very cool site. It's a bunch of programming language benchmarks. So they actually have hundreds of different sample bits of code written for every different language, and you can see and run across multiple architectures, so you can actually see how fast certain things are. Of course, in a lot of modern programming, things like network latency and other kind of stuff don't get reflected in the actual true speed of a system, but this is good for like beefing with someone about a language. So. And, so Tim, does that answer that person's question?
I think so. They haven't responded, but...
They hang up? Yeah, that's right. That book you can get online. You can buy it off of Amazon or whoever. Yeah. Okay. Good. So it's a pretty good book.
Is one of those the No Starch Press book? Is that
Yes,
okay?
that's the
Yeah.
one.
I believe it's the top one. Yeah.
The regular, the official book.
Yeah. There are actually a whole bunch of books. There's Rust for Rustations, which is done by the guy who does all the live streaming on YouTube, John Jinsett. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. There's a Rust for Embedded Systems book, which I have, which is it doesn't really talk about like embedded systems topics, but it kind of goes into how to get started in embedded systems in Rust. So there's a bunch of different Rust books, but I would start with the programming language ones first, and then move on. Yeah, Rustlings is really cool. I definitely recommend that. Like if you could like spend an hour with that every day, and then get through it, and you'll be like, oh wow, I kind of know this stuff now. So there's a lot of cool software written in Rust these days, and I just wanted to go into that. So present term, which is what you're seeing right now, is just a TUI. I don't know if it's written with Ratatouille, but it's a terminal user interface presentation tool. The back end of this is Markdown, so it's pretty cool. Zellage is a terminal multiplexer, so kind of like Tmux, but yeah.
Is that the top row and bottom row of icons on your screen?
Yes, actually, that's that. Yeah, so this is Zellage right here. You're seeing. And the thing I like about it is, like, if you forget the key combinations, it's all right there for you, so you can figure it out. I love code that are TUIs that actually don't try to hide the keystrokes from you. That give you some way of figuring it out. Helix, which is an editor, that is, I guess you call it a batteries included editor. It's written in Rust. Very cool. It's a modal editor. It uses actually the Cacomb key bindings, which are similar to VI but backwards. So, so if you know the VI key bindings, you can kind of muddle your way through it, but you're going to want to actually shift your muscle memory a little bit. And I've gotten to the point where I know I can do stuff in Helix very well now, and I go back to VI. I'm just like, okay, I just screwed that up. So.
Okay, to your comment about
Mhm.
not obscuring, like if you don't obscure the commands and everything, how do you trap someone in?
Yeah. How do you right? How do you how do you stop them from being able to exit your Vim? Yeah. So Helix. I mean, I guess you could get trapped in there, but I think it's pretty hard. Zed, which is also very common, popular. I guess you would call it a full-blown IDE, not just an editor, but it's like a Vim first VS Code type thing. There's a new one that I found out about called Fresh. So this is more like Notepad-ish, but better. It is a terminal user interface, but it uses the CUA key binding. So if you come from the DOS or OS2 world or whatever, or the Windows world where they do the CUA key bindings, that's what that's using. RipGrep, which once you install that, you'll never use grep again. Yeah. Very fast. Bat, which is a replacement for cat. So I still actually have cat on my. I still use cat quite a bit because, like, if you need to, like, I guess bat's a better replacement for less. That's usually where I use it the most. But they call it improved cat. Yeah.
So do these replacements like try to copy like all the syntax of the original like command?
I don't know. I rarely have to actually use flags with ripgrep. So, because it does the recursive stuff automatically, it knows how to ignore .git directories and all that stuff. Yeah, I think you can say, yeah, give me the names of the files and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean it's got a bunch of flags, but no, it's not a drop-in replacement for grep.
I guess like the advantage is that you have to type less, but flags is smarter.
It's also very fast, very fast. Yeah.
Another one that's a more or less drop-in replacement that gives you way more is Dust.
Dust?
Is a replacement for DU.
Oh yeah.
And they show you like a flame graph basically. They break down line by line. Here are the biggest files.
Yeah.
Also, so quick, unbelievably quick.
Yeah, a lot of these things are extremely fast. It's kind of amazing. Just, which is a command, it's a command recipe runner, so you can think of it kind of like make, but not with all the quirks. EZA, which is a replacement for long list. It's actually kind of cool. FD is an improved find. Everyone who's ever fought with a find command probably should get FD. Atwin, which is a TUI shell history. I use this all the time. It is awesome. Fish. So does anyone remember the fish shell? Yeah, it was written in C. No, it was originally written in C, and then they rewrote it in Rust. So the version you get today is written in Rust.
They really wanted to make this slide.
Yes, they worked hard. New shell, which is another shell, but that was always started in Rust, and that's a different one. Callie's gonna do a presentation on that next month.
I was in Philly a couple days ago giving a presentation on that.
So we'll get that next month. Yazi, which is a file manager, kind of like Ranger, but different, I guess. Zola, which is actually what we use for the Novolog static website. Typist, this is the one I just discovered, and it is fabulous and awesome. So those agenda slides that you saw, they were done in Typist. So it's how to create PDFs or PNGs, kind of similar to what you do with LaTeX. In fact, if you search on it, a lot of people say it's the replacement for LaTeX. Not compatible, but it does a lot of stuff like that. Wirefish, which is for packet sniffing, and then Zoxide, which is a smarter CD command. So these are just a sampling. And the reason originally the font size was much bigger on the slide, I ran out of actually space to put it. So this presentation's online on codeberg.org. And the other thing is, I know I misspelled Brian Lunduke's name, but I did that on purpose because he's not the only one who can purposely misstate things. So, questions? Yes.
Was this Markdown the same source for the PDF?
No. The stuff for Typist is much more involved, and it's Markdown-ish. So where this is much more. Let me see if I can switch over.
This is Markdown, right? Or
Yeah. So this is much more Markdown than. Let me see if I can switch over to it.
tells you how right at the bottom of the screen there.
Need a hand with that?
Yeah. So this is the presentation here.
It's trouble finding stuff on that laptop too, just saying.
Say, need Darren not help you with it?
So that's basically the presentation in present term. So I guess I could have pulled it up in the terminal. I don't know why I didn't do that. But I mean, this is like anyone who knows Markdown will recognize this. Whereas the Typist stuff is there are many more directives about how to format things that are not Markdown. They actually look like function calls. So
it's not, Typist source is probably not meant to be considered as text.
that's correct. Yeah. I wouldn't say that. Although I was looking at some of the examples today, and I was just like, wow, it'd be kind of cool if like this was what HTML did. So, but yeah.
No HTML.
Yeah. So this is the presentation that's done in Typist. So.
Is the source for this up somewhere?
Yeah, technically. it's in the GitHub repo for the Novolog website. I can direct it to you. Yeah. So.
GitHub, not Codeberg.
So my presentation's on Codeberg. Novolog's website is run out of GitHub because that's what Netlify pulls from. So, but I can show it to you. Yeah.
There was a question online regarding books. Does anybody know, do you like the book from O'Reilly, Programming Rust 2nd edition? Anybody?
Programming Rust 2nd edition from O'Reilly. I've never used. Anyone use that? I don't know. I would just stick to the online. I mean, unless you need it in print version, you can get the Rust book in print version as well, from Amazon or from, I believe they whatever the publisher is will do it. Yeah.
What's the name of the embedded one?
I think it's just Rust for Embedded Systems. That one you can get off Amazon because that's where I got it. So.
My favorite publisher because I love paper books, and No Starch still uses proper weight. O'Reilly's garbage now. They use like tissue paper.
Oh, is this that stuff that, like, if you buy a book off of Amazon, it's basically one removed from a single ply toilet paper?
Yeah, no starch still makes books that are a pleasure to hold and read, but.
Yeah, I haven't bought a Riley book in forever, so yeah, I would get the Rust programming language book, which is the no starch publisher, and the Rust for Rustations is also no starch as well. But yeah, if they, I would start there. Honestly, I mean, the online resources are probably depends, I guess, how you learn. Like, if you want to take this to the beach and like just sit there and read on the beach, I guess you want a book. But to me, like getting the Rust programming language book, going through it and playing with it, some stuff in the playground a little bit, and then going to the wrestlings, that was like to me that was the fastest way to come up to speed.
Between languages, that wrestling seems like a pretty good place to start.
Yeah. So, by the way, if you want to do Go, so the Go people have something called, I think it's called Golings. It's basically based off of the wrestling stuff. They took the wrestling's idea. So if you want to learn Go, it's another. They also have something similar to that. So, any other questions? All right.
Yeah, a round of applause for Andy Newton. Thank you for that. As always, thorough, fair, and balanced review of Rust. Well, I think it was. Hey, yeah, you don't cover the warts, so we appreciate you for that. Let's see, closing us out, I guess, is I may or may not be here next month, and this might be academically interesting to some of you. I'm getting a medical implant in my chest. It's not heart-related, though. If anybody has sleep apnea,
How are you getting,
Um,
is it a
Inspire device. So I'm really curious about it. Huh? Inspire.
Inspire, okay.
It's a device that's going to go in above my right pectoral.
Expire, I'm not liking this.
Underneath the skin, a wire will run up through my neck into my job. Not quite shock, but it's to fight the closure of the airwave that causes, when you have severe sleep apnea, it shuts. And it will, much like a pacemaker, will send a little electric shock in there, which will allow you, my throat won't relax. So it keeps the airwave open. Right now I have severe apnea. It's like 50 events an hour, which is just, stupid. And the CPAP machine is not for me. It takes me like 90 minutes every night to fall asleep just to kind of get reacclimated. So I'm glad that I am a
How does it work with airport security?
candidate for this. I'm going to have to get the pat down every time. Yeah, I'll get the medical card and be pat down every time. I can't go through the machine.
Wow.
wand with him. My dad has a stent and a pacemaker,
Yep.
and he has a medical card that he has the.
Interesting to this group, though, it does have Bluetooth enabled. It will be able to talk to my phone. I have a device that will shut it on and off every night because you don't want to walk around with this all day.
Flipper zeros are banned from the meetings.
So yeah, yeah, right.
Everybody-
They're going to insert the Raspberry Pi down here also. I don't know what it runs. I was looking it up, and I'm not quite sure what the embedded system is in the hardware device, but it seems like it could be some fun to try and
I'm more curious.
hack it.
Battery supply comes from.
Battery supply is 10 to 11 years, and then I'll have to have surgery again to have it replaced. I think somebody was raising their hand. Yeah.
Something from the Open Source Summit in Denver this summer was the Healthy Pi. They began with a hat for a normal Raspberry Pi, and now they're on to producing their own custom circuit boards.
Okay.
Biosignals.
But I'm fascinated about the technology behind it, and I was asking the doctor, and she was smart enough to answer the questions. And said, yes, you can turn it on and off, and you're supposed to, so that you don't walk around, everywhere with Bluetooth enabled from your body. But it's just one more step towards becoming Darth Vader, so I'm excited by that. Does anybody else have anything, Ed?
I just wanted to say we have the space until 1 p.m. today, because we noticed in the past that people hang around, ask questions, so feel free to do so today. Whiteboard's up there.
Okay.
Really enjoyed the whiteboard session last time, so.
Well, that's cool. Let's see. We ended last year.
I have one,
Yeah.
just a little joke on your point about walking around. So Robert Kurzweil, one of the inventors, he said mosh, mostly original substrate human. So I was thinking about mosh, that how moshy we're going to become. But good luck.
Oh, thank you so much, Andy.
Yeah, so we have a Orange Pi V2 RV2 back here, which is a RISC-V board, if anyone wants to play with it. It's got Rust on it as well, but it's running Ubuntu, so if anyone wants to see it, it's hooked up to the CrowPi thing back there, the CrowView.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Yeah, let's stay, be social. We had our first social, well, not our first social, our first happy hour in December. It was pretty well attended, 8 or 9 of us. We had a good time. Hopefully we can find other social events this year or just lunches after this meeting at some point. So thank you for everybody coming. Remember, invite a friend. It's a lot more fun when we have more people to heckle Andy.
To add to that, remember March we're doing an install-a-thon for people wanting to get off Windows. So if you know anyone that is bi-curious or
Okay.
curious, or you know, like my dad, he doesn't want to update the Windows 11. I mean, he never wants to update anything. Or has hardware that they don't have the money or don't want to replace to get Windows 11. Bring them in.
That's a great reminder, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Disappear to the camper, and I'll be back with more coffee.
More coffee?
Yes.
Oh, are we out?